All right, I'm here with this beautiful gentleman. What is your name?
Michael Miller.
And you are drum tech for who?
Alice Cooper for 13 years and currently also working for Paul Bostaph with Kerry King.
13 years, so you
14,
just started.
Yeah, just started with Alice.
What is a drum tech?
Well, I think my
Has something to do with all of this, maybe?
Yeah, with a little bit with that.
Maybe?
I mean, ultimately, my responsibility is to handle everything so the drummer doesn't have to think about anything. He can show up and focus on what he has to do without worrying about gear, ordering gear, the setup, or that everything is set up properly.
So what got you into being a drum tech?
Found drums at a very young age, always fascinated by drums. I was lucky enough in '86 to get hired by a band and...
Hired in '86? How old are you?
86, 58 in November.
You don't look 58. No way. Okay.
Well, keeps you young.
So, do you think it's required to be a drummer to be a drum tech, or to be a good drum tech?
I think you have to have some understanding of it, for sure. You don't have to be a great drummer, which I certainly am not. That's not ever been my thing. I can play drums, and I love to play drums, but my job is to facilitate the needs of the guy who... It's like a race car in a way. There's a mechanic that makes the car go fast, and a driver that can drive the car fast.
Yeah.
Neither one can do the other's job.
That's a great analogy.
That's how I see it.
So what got you into drum teching?
Well, I was hanging out with a band in Miami in '86 with a friend of mine who's going to be here today, actually. He's a guitar tech. And I was just lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. And I already had a lot of knowledge of mechanical stuff in a strange way, and how to set up cymbal stands so they won't fall over. I have a lot of weird knowledge of that from other part of my life. But I am so lucky that it happened for me, and that I get to do this job, and that I've had a pretty amazing career working for great people to this day. So it blows me away too, '86, and we're standing here in 2024.
What do you think separates a good drum tech from a great drum tech?
Attention to detail.
Okay.
So I have a little bit of OCD, ADD. That is such an asset on this job.
I bet it is.
Because you ultimately want to replicate the kit
every day.
Every day, exactly. You don't want anything to be different unless it's supposed to be different. So the better you can get at that. So I have a pretty insane attention to detail. Anybody on this tour probably would tell you I'm a bit neurotic about stuff. And cleanliness. I want the kit to look like a showpiece. It's almost like a classic car. If you were at a car show, it's got to be polished. It's got to look good.
Most underrated drum set?
Well, I only have a favorite, DW, and maybe Tama would be right behind that.
Okay.
I love DW hardware and parts. It's built to last. It's indestructible.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on other brands. I've worked for a lot of DW guys.
Okay.
And a handful of Tama guys. Right now with Paul Bostaph, that's a Yamaha kit. It's an amazing sounding kit, but I'm not versed as much in other kits, really. It's funny how guys get skewed, okay?
Yeah.
Take people like Nick Engel or other techs, they all work for Pearl guys. Pearl. I've been DW for a lot, and Tama for a few, but I haven't had a Pearl job in a long time.
Perfect size kick drum.
Well, I like 22s. They're punchy and controllable. I like a 22.
High or light, medium, or hard cymbals?
Medium.
Okay.
I like somewhat fast decay, but a bright, punchy cymbal. So here, we originally started off with 20-inch cymbals, and we went to 19s to take a little bit of decay out, and they're a little bit brighter, and you don't have to work as hard.
Perfect snare drum.
The one I have, it's a DW 6.5 by 14 bell brass. It weighs about 35 pounds.
No way.
It's super loud. And with this band, we have 3 guitar players. I've got to cut above. I've got to get above a lot of stuff. So that drum is an amazing drum. I just in love with that drum.
Do you prefer a snappier drum or more of a thud with it? What's your perfect sound to a snare drum?
So that depends on the music and who you're working for. If it's like a pop artist where you have some real melodic fills, you can have a lot of sustain. But if you have a guy that's playing a lot of notes, you want definition. So here we try and split the difference because we have a lot of little melodic fills in some of these songs, but there are a lot of busy parts. Like Billion Dollar Babies, there's a lot of time action, and Glenn's a very busy drummer in a sense, so we want definition, and we've worked for years to get that in front of house and in the in-ears. And Blair, who you talked to, has been amazing at getting that sound for us, as well as Ron, our front of house engineer.
What is the biggest mistake you see new drum techs making?
it's just attention to detail, carelessness,
Sure.
not taking a kit apart or damaging kits. I mean, I've come on gigs where kits are just a wreck. Memory lock's not in place.
Yeah.
Things just not, like I said, for me, I have a bit of OCD about things. It's got to be perfect.
What piece of advice would you give the drum techs that would immediately make their lives easier?
Study what the other guys are doing and that attention to detail. I'm telling you, it's just that attention to, you cannot make a mistake. You have to have every piece locked down. Everything you do is going to affect the outcome of that show. You don't want failures on gear. You want to do your wing nut checks. For me, I have, hundreds of wing nuts to check before show, but I'm going to check every one of them before show. I'm not going to allow a failure of any gear piece during the show.
So with your years of doing it, I'm sure you've never made a mistake ever once.
No.
What would you say is the biggest mistake you made, and what did you learn from that?
Well, I would say the way I tune drums has changed over the years, and that just comes with experience.
Okay.
Bottoms and tops. The bottom head is more important than the top head to me. The bottom tuning.
Really?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Why is that?
Bottom head is controlling the sound of that drum. The bottom head is very significant. And I change bottom heads probably more regular than a lot of people do. That bottom head needs to be freshened up a few times a year, and tuning the bottom head every single day when it comes out of the box. I'm tuning every single drum, top and bottom, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you
bottom head is probably overlooked a lot.
Can you walk us through this drum set?
So we have a Gibraltar rack that me and Brent Barnett at Gibraltar built. This rack is 7 years old. It's been on the road for a while. This kit is in its second year right now. DW made it for us last year. They're maple shells. There's a 14 on the left, two 22s, a 10, 12, 16, and 18. So there's a nice spread. So the 10 is tuned up a little higher than most 10s would be to start some of these fills off with. And the 18 is tuned a little lower than some would be to make a nice spread. The 14 is tuned very low, sort of like a drop. It's just used in some build-ups. And the snare drum is pitched pretty high as it can go, and maintain body.
So I see some
Roland SPD SX pads.
some digital stuff here instead of the analog. Talk to me through this, and what is this? And
So
obviously it looks like you got samples and
Yep.
click.
So we have no playback rig. This band is 100% live band. There's a click that I run that only the drummer gets. So almost every song has a click, at least in some part of it, because this show has no breaks between songs. So he's ending one song, sometimes starting the second song in the end of the current song. So I'm firing clicks. We have samples that start like Frankenstein, Poison, Hey Stupid. These are just little 28-second, 30-second samples that start the show off. And that's what's going on here. It's samples and clicks. We're using a kick trigger just for a sound in the ears. It doesn't go to front of house.
Oh, cool.
And I'll tell you one interesting thing about this that we haven't seen anywhere else, but that BT1 by the cowbell triggers a hi-hat sound that only goes in the band's ears. So Glenn's keeping time through a lot of the theatrical, slower parts of this show where there's only one guitar player playing guitar and Alice singing. He's keeping time for the band and counting off changes only in the band's ears.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's very cool. It makes for a nice effect that you're not hearing the count-offs come in front of house.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome.
Mm-hmm. This is an 808. And the other BT1 is a variety of things. In our 90-minute show, Glenn has a drum solo, so there's some sound effects in there for the drum solo. And that's it. It's otherwise a completely straight-up acoustic kit. We're not triggering anything else. We're not using any samples. Just a drum set.
I have a question for you. Talk to me a little bit, because I see kick drums that they'll use both drum heads, and some people use the double pedals for that. Why would he want to do? You would think that naive me would think there's two kick drums. Use both.
Two reasons. One is we're short on inputs. It's two more inputs. And there can be tuning issues between two drums. But that's not the major reason. The real reason is to get pedal placement in the right place. If that pedal was farther to the right, it would have to be in the center of the drum. We want it next to hats. So it's really to get that left pedal next to the hi-hats. Glenn plays both pedals at the same time a lot. So it's really a pedal placement issue above all else. But it simplifies the gig a bit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for walking me through this. If people want to follow you in your career, where can they follow you?
At DTech3.
DTech3, or come to an Alice Cooper show near you and look behind the drums. You might see him there somewhere.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you, man.